Selling real estate in the city of Toronto for the last 8+ years has been interesting to say the least. So this video, I'm going to be breaking down everything that I've learned, all sorts of insider trade secrets that probably no other real estate agent would tell you, but that's what you come to this channel for. So stick with me. Hope that you enjoy. What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to today's edition of the channel. So let's get started. First of all, people are extremely stubborn, way more than we even realize and think. You know what? I'm not leaving. Canadian real estate accounts for such a large portion of Canada's economy that we've all been conditioned to think that homeowners, you're gonna be rich. And it's true, it's all true. But at the same time, because we've been conditioned to think that way, that leads to this phenomenon that we see, which is when prices go up, they absolutely skyrocket. And when they come down, they actually crawl very, very slowly. We'd see something more akin to stabilization before we see a drastic fall off a cliff like people have been predicting for literally the last 15 years. And the reason for that is that it's really difficult for a seller to look at a house down the street that sold for 100, 200K more than what the market is giving you now, and to go ahead and sign that bottom line. A lot of the time, they'd rather wait for the market to get better, wait for conditions to improve, not sell it all, put off the complete plan. And a lot of the time, that's exactly what ends up happening.
Carlito, we have to have this meeting now, Ese. Get up!
I'm good right here, man.
You know...
I've known homeowners who call real estate agents for selling property on their street for too little and cuss them out and give it to them because they didn't get enough for their house. Number two, people are irrational, but we can actually predict that they're going to be rational. We tend to overvalue things that are ours just because we own them. I'll give you a personal example. We had a client who was selling a studio condo downtown. It was worth about $440,000 to $450,000, depending on market timing. She would not get out of her mind that she needed $500,000. The same client, when talking about other condos in the building and in the area, would say, that's just a shoebox. It's only worth $445,000. It's only worth $450,000. So the same person took everybody else's property and assessed it correctly and said what the market would say. But when it came to her condo, it was a really, really slow process. Her coming to the realization that her place is not worth more just because she owns it. There's a wonderful book called Predictably Irrational that my lovely girlfriend put me on that talks about these exact same things. A lot of sellers and buyers, they are irrational. They don't act in rational ways, but it's consistent. It's predictable. It makes sense for people to not make sense. Another aspect where we see this in the Toronto real estate market is, for example, bidding wars. We put a property way under value so that agents can come, submit offers, compete with one another, and drive the price up. We're all familiar with this. But I've also seen real time people only submit an offer if there's a certain amount registered. If I tell a client there's 5 offers registered, they think, oh wow, you know, this house is nice. Maybe we should put an offer. It's that social proof of people actually wanting it.
Makes me want a hot dog real bad.
The third thing is a big lack of knowledge out there for agents, for homeowners, for really everybody, first-time buyers, people trying to get into the market. The reason I say this is because when we meet with people, they're a homeowner in a given neighborhood, they feel like they know what it should be selling for, how much it's worth, what people are gonna come buy it for. But when we ask them very simple terms in our business, like what are the months of inventory in your area, they quickly realize how little it is they actually understand anything that's going on. I've spoken to people who are so confident about the financing process, but don't know the difference between fixed and variable rates or open and closed mortgages.
We're saying the same thing.
We are not saying the same thing!
Scotiabank just put out that 63% of Gen Z and millennials want more clear info from their financial institutions when it comes to the home buying process, which means that just because there's a lot of marketing and stuff out there, there's not a lot of real education. Fourth is a lack of transparency. There's a lot of shady tactics that a lot of agents use. It's a shame that our governing bodies and our board don't do more to stop these practices and protect the consumers more, but at the same time, it's important that we know just the lack of transparency that there is. Let's go back to the bidding war example. First of all, you only know the number of offers registered. You don't know what they're for. So you're taking every single thing that the agent says at face value. Guess how much money the agent is making to represent that seller's best interests? A lot. So you can imagine they'll say what they need to say in order to drive the price up the most that they possibly can.
I'm gonna make them an offer again.
And there's no rule here that we must reveal the value of the other offers. They're more likely to sell their house for top dollar if they don't reveal the value of the offers so that you can just blindly compete. And the lack of transparency is actually very frightening. There's also a very low barrier to entry into the business. So a lot of people who are real estate professionals also haven't sold many houses, and there's no public data available as to how much they've actually done in anybody's given neighborhood. If a real estate agent comes to your house and says, I've sold XYZ in your neighborhood, there's nothing that a homeowner can do to actually corroborate that. It'd help a great deal if our governing bodies and real estate boards gave people tools that are publicly accessible in which they could find these things for themselves, but until that's the case, we're probably going to continue having these transparency issues. In the name of not taking up your entire day, the last insider tidbit that I'll give you is that we are on a K-shaped curve where the rich get richer, and unfortunately the people who are struggling, there's no end in sight to when that's going to get better between inflation, increasing housing costs, and the like. We have corporations who can mop up all of the property and have a lot of tax benefits to write off all of their expenses on. They can use the BRRRR method, which is buy, renovate, rent out, refinance, and then repeat. You need to start by getting into the market to actually have that as a vehicle. You can take out loans under the asset to put into other asset classes, etc., etc. So if you are in the market, life probably stands to get a lot simpler and easier for you over time. And if you're not in the market, it stands to get harder. The market becomes less and less accessible. Not only the interest rates, not only the prices, but stagnating employment opportunities, inflation, all of these things point to it being harder and harder for folks who actually haven't gotten into the market, unfortunately, compared to folks who have. But guys, that's going to do it for me for today. Thank you so much for sticking around. Feel free to watch another video here. And that's it for me. Peace.